So 2 parts we want to throw into this conversation, okay? Number 1, I want to read a quote that was from Brandon Hyde after last night's game, okay? So that first thing, if I pull up this image, and shout out to Jake Rill for the tweet as I get this going here, over under 2 seconds, Zach, under.
Over.
Should have taken the under. But Jake Rill tweets right here, and if you guys are listening on Spotify and Apple when we put this out, quote says from Brandon Hyde, "We're having a tough time letting things go. We're letting at-bats kind of steamroll on us a little bit. No one's going to feel sorry for us. This is the big leagues. You got to be able to bring it in every night. You got to be able to turn the page." And people can say, hey, that's a manager's responsibility to get the most out of your guys. But last year, the adversity of guys dealing with failure. And so far, they've gotten punched in the mouth on back-to-back days. And it's not a time to panic at all. Like, you shouldn't go into a panic mode, and we'll explain a little bit. However, this is a bad brand of baseball. That, to me, it's the way that they're losing, Zach, that is bothering people. The Orioles lost yesterday, and it was 7-4, and they fought back. And you can sit there and go, all right, pitching situation is documented. We get it. Starting pitchers aren't going deep. It's a fact. But you battle back, you felt a little bit of life. I don't think the Orioles are a bad team, Zach. I think that it is just a bad brand, specifically over the last 2 games.
Yeah, and there hasn't been really anything over the past, 2-3 days in the past 2 games that gives you any sort of, hope that things are going to really turn around. I mean, you have, like Hyder just, that quote from him being like, yeah, guys aren't turning the page. Then you have Tyler O'Neill saying, yeah, I don't think we know if we're really that team that has a leader that needs to do that. And then, you have Charlie Morton with the quotes about, yeah, I just, I'm not sure if I really have it anymore. And, stuff like that. It seems like a team that is just so mentally defeated. And that's what's concerning 22 games into the season.
Yeah.
Is, I would get this if this has been a long taxing year. If, you get to the end, you're on game 150 and it feels like it's just been forever. I get that if the morale's a little low. It just feels like right now something's going on. It is a bad brand of baseball because it's mental mistakes. If they can't get out of their own way, it's little things like not covering second base last night. All of a sudden, runner goes from first to second. Next pitch is a single, would have been first and third instead of run scores. And then it just spirals from there, taking bad routes to fly balls. It just feels like right now there's almost like a lazy kind of feel to the team where, like you said, it's a bad brand of baseball. I talked about it last night in length. If you're going to make mistakes at 1,000 miles per hour, that's going to happen. Like if a ball gets past you because you dove for it thinking you got it and it gets past you, that's going to happen. But when things where it's like, guys are jogging in to go pick up ground balls in the outfield and suddenly, they're not paying attention. Guys goes from first, turns it into a double. Things like that. You're leaving your pitcher out to dry. It just feels like right now mentally is where the Orioles are kind of in their way. We've seen them all. We know the talent's there. I don't think anyone questions the talent. It just feels like right now they're at that crossroads of they need something to get that momentum back and just get them back in the mindset of, okay, we can do this.
Well, and this is going back to the conversation we just had with Trey Mancini. We're talking about early in a game when you're going through struggles, and Trey said, I'm starting to figure that out later in his career now that he's coming back. But being able to not let one at bat dictate what you're going to do later. Continue to battle through, continue to fight. The Austin Powers phrase, Austin has his mojo. The Orioles don't have their mojo. They don't have the belief that they're going to go out there and string it together. And sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. Sometimes you got to reset. But right now, you could just see a team that they don't have that spark that they had. And you can tell that things are marinating and they're thinking about it over and over. So those are Hyde's comments. I've seen some comments saying about here and I saw with Brian, and then saying about for a season being early on. Well, here's Mark DeRosa yesterday when we had the interview with him, talking about what is that period of time before you really go, hey, this is a serious problem. Brad, let's play that clip. I got it.
Okay.
problem that they're presented with now is they're stuck in the mud. Now, they're not the only team stuck in the mud, though, Mark. The Kansas City Royals went to Detroit, had a really rough time with the Tigers, whose rotation is firing on all cylinders. At what point do you look at it with some of these teams that are maybe trying to figure it out? Do you start to look at, okay, this is going to be a concern moving forward? What's that grace period for you? Is it month, get to June?
I like to give it 40 games. That was, and I learned that from Bobby Cox. He was always a big 40 game guy. He would give us the first month and a week to kind of get 100 at bats under you, get $150, kind of build a batting average, and he would usually call a meeting right around that time and say, "Hey guys, names on the back of the jersey say we're better than this. Now I've given you your little leash. Now it's time to go." So there's no panic after 23 games, but certainly, I would give it. I'd give it a 40 game window.
So right there, we're talking 40 games, and I always told you guys mid-May, June. So 40 games could be the first couple weeks of May, right? So right around the halfway point of May. I think that is a fair assessment. You're a quarter of the way through, and you're going to give guys the opportunity to get out of it. And I use this as an example, and right now he's absolutely in fuego, and that's Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge was awful for the month of April last year. Awful. Some players and some teams get off to slow starts. The Houston Astros were awful.
I was just about to say this.
To start the year.
Yeah, Jock Peterson had set a Texas Rangers record by going hitless in his last 41 at bats.
And I don't wish that upon anybody, not even my worst enemy.
Chris Davis has the MLB record, by the way, 0-54. Tough.
Yeah.
Tough. But, like you were saying, Jock Peterson, is he in danger of losing his spot? No, I don't think so at all. I think he's just going to figure it out. And I think that, to your point, I think there's going to be some figuring out to do. Obviously, as you'd mentioned, the way that the games are being lost is a little bit concerning. I actually like this, Rip, and I know that we have our guest getting ready to come on.
Yep.
But just real quick, I think that I saw a comment here about, designating an actual captain for the team, like a Cedric Mullins, I feel like would be absolutely perfect. You set a captain, you have a guy that can lead the team, that's his role. And I just wonder if maybe that could be something that could at least help solidify some leadership, some veteran presence in the locker room, to actually have somebody be like, all right, you're the guy I'm going to go to when I know that I need help.
And one thing I'll actually throw out that we haven't talked about enough, when you're really close with friends, and you're tight, it's a tight-knit group. And yes, you can be honest having conversations with friends, but you it's a different type of feel, right? But when you are a leader of a team and captain, you sometimes got to be that ass. Like, you got to be that one that people might not like at times, but you got to play that role.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of these guys, they like each other. They love each other. And I think that that's phenomenal. But sometimes in certain cases, they might need a little, hey, here's a reality check. That's a hard thing from a manager to say, hey, I'm trying to get that out of you. And this is why I look at it for Brandon Hyde. Yes, he's the one that has to steer the ship to make things go. And if he doesn't figure it out, the reality is someone's going to lose their job. Mm-hmm. That's just baseball. That's what's going to happen. But I want to talk about it. Players have to be the ones that go out there. They have to be responsible, be accountable. And what can they do to go out there and play? Derek Jeter, to me, is one of the best captains in any professional sport, because you never worried about Derek on or off the field.
Right. And
you went out there and he played the game hard. And yes, he had friends, but the whole thing, even when A-Rod came over, it was a tense moment. But Derek, as the leader, said, hey, we're not going to let that kind of deter us. And yes, it does help when you have more veterans in the process. That's the other debate here. But that's something for a young team to be able to have more hard conversations.
Right.
Because no longer is it that, man, the Orioles have young talent. Yeah, they do. But in the big leagues, no one gives a crap if you have young talent. All they care about is, are you good enough to beat us tonight? And if you are, hey, congratulations. Now go do it again. Mm-hmm. The Orioles are really good against right-handed pitchers for the most part this year. Lefties, It's been terrible. They got time to figure it out. And when we get to 40 games, we can sit down and assess a quarter of the way through, what does Baltimore truly need to do to move forward? So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time.